हेलो एंड नमस्कार सभी को। गुड मॉर्निंग एंड गुड इवनिंग टू ऑल। आप हमें जहां से भी सुन रहे हैं, मैं हूं आपकी होस्ट दिव्या एंड वेलकम टू टुडेज लाइव सेशन। Before starting the session, viewers, eGlobal Doctors is giving special offer on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Now, talk to specialists of diabetes, skincare, and pediatrics, orthopedics, and general physician at just rupees 199. So, moving to our live session. So we are back again with an exciting topic. Today we are going to discuss about the child obesity and prevention. So let's get started. For today's session, we have our expert, Dr. Jyoti Manekar. Dr. Manekar is an obesity medicine specialist and a caring and compassionate physician who likes to treat people, not just the disease. She has over 15 years of experience in taking care of patients. She has been treating overweight and obesity, which are root causes of multiple chronic medical conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, and many more. So, Dr. Jyoti, it's really nice to meet you virtually. So, how are you doing today?
Thank you, Diva. It's nice. I'm good, and it's nice to see you again.
Yeah. So, ma'am, without any delay, should we dive into the session?
Why not?
Yeah. So, for today's session, as we are going to discuss about the obesity, before that, viewers, we are live on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So you can join from your favorite platform and you can watch us discussing about the childhood obesity and its prevention. So moving to our next question, Dr. Jyoti. So like you mentioned about the playtime and all. So what does impact like screen time have on child's weight?
That's a very good question, Divya. They have studied the effects of screen time on obesity, and they have seen that any kid that has been on the screen for at least 2 hours or more is at a higher risk for having obesity. So this has been a major study with dramatic results. When any kid is on their screen, whether it is their phone or your laptop or whatever, if they're sitting and watching something for 2 hours or more, their risk increases because when they're sedentary, when they're sitting, of course, they're not moving. And when you're not moving, you don't utilize the sugar in your muscle. When the sugar accumulates, it does cause inflammation, and inflammation causes disease. So decreasing the screen time is very important. The best way to do it is, again, you could say, okay, after you finish this, I'll give you 30 minutes of screen time, whatever you want to pick. And after that, I want you to turn that off and put that away, or give that video or your phone or whatever smartphone back to me. So something of those kinds. And then try not to instill those rules when their children are in the middle of a show. That's not going to work. They're going to throw a tantrum. So try to talk about these things when the kids are not on the phone. So for example, if you're having dinner together, it's good to do that. That way they're not, no distractions. So instead of watching TV and eating, sit down as a family and, talk and then eat. That helps. And then also create a little small bedtime routine where you can sit with your child, talk for a couple minutes, and then rest. That can give you a little time with your kids where you can make a healthy conversation and just ask them, hey, how did you do today? What are the good things you did today? What are not so good things you did today? So the child automatically sometimes comes up with those answers. Hey, mom, I think I did, play on my screen or my games for too long. I shouldn't have done that. So why do you think it is wrong? So engage the child in a discussion, and I'll tell you what, 9 out of 10 times they know the answers. But when you force them something, don't do this, and then that becomes more important. So let it come from them. A lot of times they know it. They have been exposed to lots of good and bad screen issues, programs online. So a lot of times they know it, and then encourage that or bring up the talk where you can have a quiet discussion. So you can say, hey, Rahul, what would you do next time to limit your screen time? How much would you want, or which shows do you really like? Oh, I like that show too. So why don't we watch this together? And maybe, so that you won't be as stressed out, so that your homework can be done, you can do some reading, things like that. So that helps. And also, I want parents to understand that more you browse a screen, so for example, they go from show to show, or they browse different shows which kind of flash pretty quickly, what happens is your brain learns to not remember things because those are not necessary, right? So you're creating what's called like an artificial acquired attention deficit, because you don't need to focus as much. You just see it, move on, see it, move on. So it never gives a chance for the brain to learn it. So learning is a process. It takes time, repetition, recall, and things like that. But you're not doing that. So your brain is kind of used to, oh, you see it, watch it, done. You're not kind of learning out of it because you're not processing it again. So your brain decides, okay, I don't need to remember. So a lot of these kids then develop what's called learning disorders, or they have hard time remembering things because their brain is used to just, browsing. So anything that you read, it feels like, oh, we're just browsing. I don't have to remember this. So that's something called like an acquired attention deficit that we start to see in children as well. And the reason what that happens also is there's a big problem with addiction with screen. So when you watch screen or see something stimulating, you get a hormone called dopamine that releases in your brain. That's the happy hormone, makes you feel good. So, for example, like people have, addictions of being at the casino, or buying lottery or gambling. It's the same hormone that comes out when they're doing those things. It gives them that stimulation, that feeling of goodness. It may be alcohol, it may be smoking, it may be whatever addiction. So the same kind of hormone comes out when they are watching screen and getting delighted with it over and over again. And then the hormone, as it drops, when the stimulation is taken away, they feel withdrawn. They don't feel stimulated. They don't feel good. So you have created this addiction of screen. So very important to kind of get the child engaged and try to kind of wean that down slowly instead of just cutting it down cold turkey. So that is something to think about. So I would say, again, like food, like alcohol and smoking, the screen time is addictive, and try to keep the screen time less than an hour a day, and definitely not more than 2 hours, because it does interfere with their learning process, their memory. Weight is definitely an issue. And then, addiction. So once addiction happens, it's like everything else falls apart. As you know, people who are alcoholic and addicted, they can't kind of take care of themselves. So same thing with screens. That starts early on. I mean, when we were growing up, that wasn't there. But these age kids, although there's a lot of benefits to learning because you have the world exposed to you, so you can learn from a lot of different resources. But at the same time, if you don't limit it, then definitely it has some negative side effects that we need to be aware of, and taking good care of them.
Yeah. So as Dr. Jyoti mentioned, viewers, children should have less screen time to avoid like negative side effects. So before hopping to our next question, viewers, eGlobal Doctors is one complete healthcare platform solutions for all your medical related issues and questions. And मजे की बात ये है that you have these services available to you at your fingertips without breaking your bank balance and without driving all in the comfort of your living room. So, Dr. Jyoti, as we just discussed about the screen time, so like I wanted to ask, like, how can schools contribute to combating child obesity?
Absolutely. That's a very good question. I think it's not just the responsibility of parents, but nowadays, I mean, children spend at least 1/3 of their day at schools, 1/3 in bed, and 1/3 goes probably away in driving, showering, getting ready, and all that type of stuff. So they're spending a whole lot of time at school. So schools can be a big factor in the way a child grows and learns from their environment. I think number one is schools need to make kids aware that nutrition is important, instead of pointing it out as a weight issue, which a lot of kids might take it negatively. Because whether you like it or not, every kid, when they're overweight or obese, they get they get teased or embarrassed at school in some shape or form. So when they get bullied, of course, they're not going to be happy. So there's a lot of shame in that, and that can pull a child behind in psychologically and socially and emotionally. So that psychological trauma we do not want. So we want school to encourage healthy nutrition without pointing out that, okay, this is for obesity. We rather bring the awareness that it's important for our bodies to have nutrition, real food, and not something packaged. So when the knowledge comes from school, also it makes a big difference. Like school educates us about history, geography, and math and science, it's important for schools to teach us about our health, the basic things like what nutrition is, and is it important to follow in our everyday practices. And whatever they preach, they should also practice it. Let's not school provide the junk foods, limit on candy, distribution of, cookies and stuff like that. So in some of the schools, I've seen that kids have to bring their box from home. So I like that method where the kids are then engaged, and then the school tells them, like at least my daughter's schools used to tell them that your homework is to help your mom prepare your lunch or something like that. So that can be done where when it comes from the school, obviously the children want to do it more because it's important now because their favorite teacher told them to do that. So I think schools have a big role to play when it comes to the knowledge, and also giving them small projects where they really apply that knowledge. So if you just teach them and then you don't use them, it's not going to work. So some of the schools say, okay, you have to bring home cooked food to school. You cannot bring a bag of popcorn for lunch and eat that, because again, that's not healthy. The child cannot focus. They don't do well at school. And let's say they have a bottle of juice or something, they're high and then eventually they're down. So just the ups and downs in their moods makes it difficult for a teacher to run the classroom even. So keeping more like a steady, healthy sugar in their system allows them to learn better. So when schools say, okay, you need to bring a box of vegetables every single day to your school, and make that a habit, only home cooked food comes, that obviously builds that habit. Children learn to develop that. And all these things have to start at school age. If you think about changing things when you're 25, it's hard. And forget about at 40, it's more harder. You just think that, okay, you want to have doctor to doctor, find a solution for your problem. But the solution is at home. Change your food, you will change your health, because what goes into your body is what your body's going to be. If you put junk in your body's going to be a junkyard. So that's what I would say. Schools should reinforce knowledge as well as practice of the knowledge in little projects for kids.
So, as we discussed how healthy nutrition is important for child obesity, so viewers, eGlobal Doctors is providing nutrition consultation and disease reversal programs. We have variety of featured categories as diabetes remission, detox program, weight loss, gut health, and many more. So our approach is totally scientific along with some holistic transformation tools. So you can register with us today at eglobaldoctors.com and book your appointment for a proper nutrition coaching. So Dr. Jyoti, as we discussed about the factors and how screen time and school play a major role in combating child obesity. So are there cultural or societal factors influencing childhood obesity?
Absolutely. Just like schools, everything around a child is going to matter in their growth and development. A child has a very absorptive mind. Whatever you throw in front of them, they're going to pick up things out of it, good or bad, both of them. They're going to come in. Okay. So they're like little sponges. They'll grasp everything. So if school is a major contributor because you're spending time there, it's the environment, the culture also makes a big difference. If culturally at home, if families are eating late at night, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock is their dinner time, that's obviously going to influence the child. You say, don't eat after 6 p.m. Sunset is done. You're done eating. But if you start eating at 6 o'clock and having, chai at 5 o'clock and then eating dinner at 9 and 10 o'clock, it's obviously very late. So those are little things that we need to kind of manage at home. So if you have a culture of eating dinner early, obviously it's going to make a difference. So they have more brain time where they can do their homework or do their learning instead of feeling sluggish by evening and then, eating and then sleeping on a full stomach. They don't sleep well. They wake up groggy. They're tired. When they're tired, of course, they want to have that little coffee to kind of get them awake and get started for the day. The school is competitive. Everything is competitive nowadays, of course. So then stress builds up. And stress goes up, the cookie comes to a rescue, right? When you feel down and sad, of course you want something sweet to feel good, and then that habit kind of also happens in kids, and kids tend to seek that pleasure too, which is kind of again going the wrong way. So culturally, if we kind of change our food times, meal times, it helps a lot. A lot of societal programs, for example, parties, anything that's going on, it's always around food. So that is also a big thing. If somebody's born or somebody dies, there is always food, which is good, but then food has to be real food. Think about nutrition as real food. So if you're enjoying food, then make sure it is food and not junk. So when they're offered at parties and birthdays and any events, so bringing in the healthy food, or can rather do a potluck where everybody can bring a dish made from home. That way they can incorporate healthy foods and not bring something packaged just because there's a party. So it doesn't have to be party means something that is from a to-go thing. And there are a lot of videos and programs that can teach you how to cook well. And a lot of times you don't even need a lot of skill and a lot of ingredients. So you can make flavorful food. And if you feel like, something is not tasting the way I would like, then always start to think about making it a different way and teach that culture to children that, hey, if you don't like broccoli, maybe we didn't do it the right way. It's not about the broccoli. It's probably, we need to probably try a different way to cook it. So bring that to the child. So then the child is going to think about it like, okay, it's not the broccoli. It's probably we need to do it better. So coaching that ahead of time also helps. So culturally, parents need to be aware of this and they need to bring it into their lives of the kids and themselves. If they're picky eaters, obviously the child is going to be picky. So try to expose them to as many vegetables and colors. If your child doesn't know at least 5 vegetables and fruits, mom and dad, you have a lot of work to do. so it is very important. So if their favorite food is pizza, then start teaching them what else is real food. And then they need to learn to eat those things. So very, very important. At least you want to kind of have at least 3 colors on your plate at every single meal. So let that become a tradition. Obviously, children tend to do better with that. And instead of starting with a dessert or ice cream or a cake or something sweet, start with your food first. The real food where there's vegetables, there's proteins, there's lentils, those kind of things. And then if there is room, we still have some dessert, maybe a homemade dessert or maybe a fruit salad, something that's still healthy and nourishing to the body. Because a lot of times these kids are overweight and undernourished. In the past, malnourished kid used to look very thin and emaciated. But now there are chubby looking kids, but they're not healthy because they don't have the nutrition within them. So they're looking around and they look healthy, but they're not really healthy because they have not gotten the nutrition they need. I've seen a lot of kids at a very young age, when they start to walk, they do have their bellies protruding out. It's unfortunate. That means there is a lot of fat around their organs in your belly. And that does increase your risk for inflammation and long-term diseases. And studies show that if kids at a younger age are overweight or obese, they tend to become overweight, obese adults as well. So very few of them kind of return back to normal, which is unfortunate. So instilling those healthy habits culturally as well as in the society is very important. Whether it's school, it's parties, it's at home, the culture of trying to eat early dinners and then trying to bring food instead of trying to purchase food makes a difference. And then always think about having at least 3 colors on your plate, instead of just having 1 or 2 things. Raw vegetables, or anywhere in the world, I think we can get a lot of produce and foods, whether it's in India, Australia, or US, wherever you can go, you will find a lot of healthy vegetables. And you can try to shop around at a farmer's market where foods are a lot cheaper because they're locally grown and less pesticides and less of the other chemicals. So that is always healthy. And a lot of people tend to home grow their things, and that's fun for kids too. If you start home growing some of those things, in tropical warm places, definitely there's no option. It's pretty easy. So if you can kind of engage your kids in growing plants and consuming them, that probably helps a lot as well. So engage your kids in all the healthy factors. It's not about just getting an A at school and getting a grade and degree, and then this child is 97th percentile or it's a 99th percentile doing well in school, but they're at like 5th percentile in their health, and that's not going to run well in the long term. Your child may be successful in school, but may not be at the healthiest when they're young, physically and emotionally. So diet matters as far as physical health and emotional health. So definitely healthy cultures, healthy eating habits makes a difference. And I call it a habit because, again, it's not about, trying to have a motivation every day to eat something healthy. It's like if you make it a routine, you don't have to think about it, right? So for example, you get up and brush your teeth, right, Divya? You don't have to have motivation, somebody tell you every day, oh, it's important to brush your teeth. Oh, it's good to do that. You do it because it's routine, right? The same thing, eating healthy, let's start it and then make it a routine so that it's not a big deal. We always go back to the same things that God made food has everything that we need. So go back to that and less likely we'll have issues. So I say, 70 to 80% of problems are man-made because what we feed our body. So I think awareness and the culture definitely will matter.
So, as we just discussed about the cultural and societal factors, how they influence childhood obesity. So, moving to our next question, Dr. Jyoti, are there long-term health consequences of childhood obesity?
Sure, yeah. Like I said before, children when they're obese as a young kid or overweight, they tend to kind of grow up to become overweight and obese because they have continue the same habits. So the habits grow with them, and obviously, if they're as a child, if they're eating fast foods or foods brought from outside, they're going to continue doing that. They're not going to start learning cooking unless something major change happens. So it is much more harder at that point. But if they're doing or making those home in school right away, it becomes an easier habit. So they can avoid long-term consequences from that. So definitely there are a lot of consequences to childhood obesity, which carry on as an adult. And they have the same old adult problems. And like I said, I've seen kids as young as 9 years old having significant diabetes, and that to type 2 diabetes that used to happen in people 40 and above, or we used to see in 30 years ago, we used to see in anybody 70 or 90-year-old people. That has moved down to 40-year-old people having diabetes. And now I've seen kids even at the age of 9 and 10 having type 2 diabetes. So definitely as a society, we haven't done a great job in bringing awareness and practicing the healthy eating habits and being physically active and being emotionally healthy. So there are several aspects to that. And we all need to contribute to it to bring awareness and practice the healthier things.
Yeah. So, Dr. Jyoti, I think we have almost covered all the aspects. So, can you provide a summary on some practical take-home message who just has joined us?
Sure. So today we are talking about childhood obesity, and obesity is defined as having fat weight accumulate in the wrong places, and it's excessive. So excessive fat in the wrong places is called obesity. Like in adults, children have obesity as well. Unfortunately, in this day and age, we are seeing a lot more of that. So when we see overweight and obese children, it does put them at higher risk for having diseases like blood pressure, diabetes, and fatty liver disease. So it is very important to bring awareness to parents, the children, and schools where the environment then changes. If you're aware what you're putting in your body is not the right fuel, then you'll work on changing the fuel, bringing real nutrition. So our kids just don't look chubby, but they're really healthy from within. Because a lot of kids in the past, like I said, were malnourished, and we could see it obviously from their bodies. But nowadays, kids are chubby, but they're still malnourished because they did not really get the real nutrition. And as a society, we can change by bringing awareness to parents, changing the cultures at home. If a parent does the right thing, the child is going to more than likely follow the right things. If the family is going to eat early, of course, the child is going to be eating early. And then picky child, labeling a child is not helpful. Instead, try to bring different colors of foods and engage the child in cooking. That way they can get into the habit of eating the right foods, learning the flavor of foods. And then, lastly, incorporate, similar habits when you're in a cultural group or whether you're at a party. As parents, when you're kind of trying to do birthday parties, always say, okay, let's go ahead and make a potluck, meaning each of the family makes one dish, brings it instead of ordering a bunch of pizza from fast food. That way, here the children are engaged in cooking with the parents. They bring a dish, so each one shares. They can talk about it. When you create a talking subject, as well as provide them with healthy food. So try to find different reasons to bring those healthy foods in their foods. And one last thing is take some quiet time to chat with your child, at least for 5 minutes every single day, without any distractions. That way, you know what the child is thinking, how their physical health is, what is on their mind, how's their emotional health. And a lot of times, if you just start questioning those, they'll start talking about things to you. So a lot of times they know the right answer. So it's just kind of helping them engage in the right behaviors, because we don't want them to just be scared and do it right in front of you. We want them to do the right things even when you're not watching them. So those are little things that you can incorporate in their everyday life. And according to statistics, again, they say that the screen time of less than 1 hour is good for children age 2 and above only. Under 2, they shouldn't even be watching screen, which is, again, unfortunately, a lot of young kids are playing with the phone. I don't know why, but it is very important to kind of incorporate that. Or when you have parties or get-togethers, make sure you involve other kids. That way, the kids are enjoying and playing rather than being on their devices all the time. So that helps as well. Instead of, parents partying differently and then the kids are doing their own thing, instead engage in some family games where you play bingo or something where the whole family and the whole group is engaged. So we are automatically cutting them away from their screen without saying stop doing it. So that allows us to kind of get those kids engaged in physical activity. And then keeping the kid in a school program where there is sports. So that always helps them to be more physically active. So one, they have to eat healthy, put the right nutrition in their body, drink water instead of soda or juice because there's no nutrition value to that. And then lastly, physical activity is the key. Again, if they're engaged in sports like soccer, maybe swim team or something that they enjoy, maybe gymnastics or whatever they like, they can be part of it. Or if they don't like any of those, they can find things that they may like, or maybe just turn on the music and dance, and that helps a lot too. The recommendation is to do physical activity at least for 60 minutes, moderate to intense physical activity daily for kids, for them to be active and for them to be healthy over time. So these habits, if they become a habit or routine, they will stick with them longer. If you just do it for a day or two here and there, it's not going to work out. Like you made your child brush their teeth every single day, same thing, make them eat their greens and vegetables every single day. Make them do their physical activity, whether it is sports or dancing or whatever they enjoy every single day. So make allotted time for that. And then everything else comes after that. And healthy kids in their physical body and mental health can do a lot better in their education and careers as well. Instead of parents being focused on their education, their homework, the career, the grades, I think they need to pay equal attention to their physical health and mental health. And I would highly encourage parents to kind of take that time, at least 5 minutes a day, to sit down and talk with your child without having any distraction of TV or phones or laptop. And that helps a lot too. So I think those are some of the things that we talked about today. And like adults, kids can get diabetes, blood pressure, fatty liver disease, sitting, sedentary, lifestyle. Of course, we do not want that. So all of those things are the key things. But if you want more information, also I have put it on my website. You can come up and see there at drmanekar.com, drmanekar.com, where you'll find a little more information or resources that you may want to use it for your child. If you want to look up recipes, there is eatright.com. You can look at that. There are a lot of social groups as well, support groups. Nutritionists are available if you feel like your child is very picky and you have a hard time getting them to do something. So there is nutritionist help as well. So those are different things that you can incorporate. But always there is good support. And sometimes it's just your family who's very supportive, and you just have to talk to them and they'll probably come out and help you. So use your resources wisely because there is help. So bringing awareness and bringing those projects home, work on it. Just knowing is not enough. You have to apply these, and definitely you will see great results. And investing in your health is never going to go waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jyoti, for providing lots of information about the topic. I think our audience has got lots of useful information about the child obesity and its prevention. So thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you in our live sessions. You always bring so much of information. So audience, before wrapping up the session, are you looking for an expert second medical opinion for cancer treatment? Well, look no further because eGlobal Doctors is providing access to top oncologists from across the world. So
Thank you so much,
to wrap,
Divya. I appreciate you having me today. And also, I wanted to mention quickly that I have written a book about being weight wise, and that'll be published soon in December of this year. So look out for that. It's called Weight Wise, and that talks about a lot of different little tools that you can use or behavioral changes that you could use to help improve your health and your child's health or your family's health. So that might be a tip off there as well.
yeah. So to wrap up our insightful discussion on child obesity with Dr. Jyoti, I encourage our audience to reflect on the multifaceted nature of the issue as we navigate the challenges associated with childhood obesity. So let's be proactive in implementing the practical advice shared today. So thank you, Dr. Jyoti, for sharing your expertise and guidance with us. So viewers, you can visit the website eglobalDoctors.com or download the application now. So thank you, Dr. Jyoti. It's a wrap.
Thank you. My pleasure.